It's Tuesday, June 11th, 2013. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, the E3 news, the console news, gaming news. Lots of news.
Let's do this. This morning was way weird.
Really?
Yeah.
How? I mean, I got up, was tired because I stayed up late, and I just biked to work, and work was normal.
I woke up at like 2 or 3.
What? Like AM?
Yeah,
PM.
AM. I don't know why. I went to bed at like 10 like normal. For some reason, I woke up way early. And I didn't really go back to bed that much.
Uh-huh.
It was very strange because that doesn't usually happen. I mean, sometimes there'll be stretches where I'm waking up like an hour early, like 6.
Did something wake you up?
Not unless...
Like when Brian in Family Guy wakes himself up with a fart?
Not unless that thing is nothing.
All right.
And I felt refreshed. So...
You just didn't go back to bed? I just
sort of laid in bed a lot and played some mobile games.
You know, a lot of people we know have experienced insomnia.
They have, but that's for them, that's a consistent problem. For me, this is like once in ever. That's why it's strange, right? It's
so
like
you just stayed up until eventually work?
No, I sort of got up early, and then I took a shower early, I ate breakfast early, I computed, and then I walked around outside. And then I went to work.
That's weird.
Yeah.
At least you had a nice walk outside.
Yeah. Took some pictures of neighborhood in the early morning. I
think you're getting old. That's the kind of thing that old men do. They wake up super early and they putter around.
Maybe I just turned into an old man.
I
Suddenly,
think that was the moment.
Yesterday I was 31 and today 90.
So yeah, the only thing I really got going on is jury duty. I completed it by, again, not being selected to serve on a jury.
Did you make it to voir dire?
I made it to stand outside of the courtroom for voir dire to begin.
Oh, I never made it that far.
And then the judge basically was like, yeah, we pretty much just called the jury, so you'd be standing out here to force these two schmucks to actually just come to a settlement. And it worked because once we were standing out there, I guess inside, the judge was like, look, I'm going to call that jury in here right the fuck now.
But you were at the Kew Gardens one, right?
No.
No?
I ended up having to go to the state Supreme Court and civil court way out in Jamaica.
Oh, okay.
Let me tell you, Jamaica, there is nothing to eat.
Nope.
There are 3 awful-looking fried chicken places.
Yep. Kennedy.
And
I saw Lincoln Fried Chicken.
No, there wasn't even Kennedy. It was all these, like,
I actually
super
saw a
off-brand.
Lincoln Fried Chicken.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of really crappy diners, a couple of restaurants where I walked in and nobody spoke English and there was no menu.
Awesome.
There was just a sort of buffet of...
Was there a washing machine full of money?
There was like a generic buffet of really kind of sad-looking food, but no
Poison?
really obvious way I could see to pay for it.
By
Never
weight?
mind, there was no cash register.
I'm sure
that
it
I could
wasn't
see.
expensive. Maybe it was a soup kitchen.
And that would have been the most boring day of my life, except I read all of Player of Games.
That's good. That helps us out.
Yeah.
Did they make you watch that video about doing jury?
So they turned it on, right? And before they turned it on, the woman stood up front and she said, you all have to give this your full wink and total wink attention. And she turns it on. And then after like a minute, this judge who was there walks out of the room and she stands up and just mutes it. And it just played for the next like 20 minutes. It was like these peasants murdering a dude in the water.
I saw that exact same video. Yep. Now, the thing with that video, right, is one thing it says in that video, because they didn't mute it for us, right?
It had closed captions. I could have watched it. I watched up until...
There was one thing in that video that was relevant to your story about standing outside the courtroom for the settlement.
Yeah.
In the video, it says... The people in the court feel the pressure of you sitting in this room, right? It's like just by sitting here, the people in the court, the lawyers, the defendants, the plaintiffs, the judges, they know that you're waiting in this room to come in and juror, right?
Yeah, to basically cast judgment.
Yeah, and because of that, even if you don't go in and do anything, right? That has an effect, and you saw that effect even more so.
Firsthand.
In fact, the judge was wielding it.
And the bailiff was pretty cool. He was like, well, you know what? I guess this counts, and he gave us all the form that says we never have to do jury duty
Mine
again.
counted. I didn't even make it out of the room with the TVs.
You only went for one day?
They said anyone who's left in this room, come up to the front, and they gave us all the piece of paper, and we went home.
No. I got to leave early, basically, as soon as they were
We
like...
also did early, as soon as they had all the voir dire taken out.
But this video was great. There's this one moment where basically they're like, in the old days, justice was bullshit.
That's
and
right.
It shows these peasants just
Just
throwing
like
a guy in the
murdering
water.
people.
And they're like, if he
shit.
floats, he is guilty, but if he sinks, he is innocent. And the way they like...
And in the modern days, justice is still bullshit, but we're going to act like it's not because you're in the court right now.
But basically...
But at least it's not that bullshit.
Whatever actor it was who played, I guess, the magistrate of that town, because they throw the
I'm
guy
sure
in the
we
water.
can find that video on YouTube.
I'm going to add it. I was gonna link to it because
Okay.
it's pretty great. But basically, they throw the guy in the water, and everyone's all super serious, and then the guy doesn't come back up, and then
Because he's a witch.
the magistrate just looks and then makes this kind of offhand gesture, like, "All right, I guess he's innocent," and then everyone celebrates. And maybe we should go back to
Burn the
that.
witch. Burn it. They should just take that video and put the Monty Python thing in there. It'd be better.
Now,
Anyway.
if that video is on YouTube, I'm gonna mash it up with something.
All right, since our whole show's news, let's not do news. You got any other openings?
Not really. I've been playing Mario Tennis on the 3DS. It's
Hey.
new Mario.
I got a very tiny one.
It's not as good as the N64 Mario Tennis.
We'll talk about that later. I bought on Amazon the sequel to the 9 Doors, 9 Persons, 9 Hours, 9 whatevers.
Yep.
for
Sequels.
for the 3DS, and I thought I'd save some money buying a used copy for $10 less.
Uh-oh.
I opened up the package at work today.
Game wasn't in there?
No, they gave me a PS Vita copy.
What?
So I went and I immediately returned it.
Nah.
I went on Amazon and I was like, give me a return slip. Print, tape, go to UPS store immediately. So take that. But I guess I have to buy a new copy to guarantee that I get a DS one.
We could buy another used copy.
I'll get another PS Vita one.
Maybe.
No, whatever.
So anyway, things of the day. I thought this was just cute. It's a video about Magikarp and his trials and tribulations trying to find an owner.
I choose you, Magikarp.
It's just
Use your splash attack.
It's that kind of video that's well done and makes the same joke consistently from beginning to end in increasingly absurd situations. It's adorable, and it's Magikarp.
You should also link, I choose you. Ditto. Oh, wait. Shit.
I'm sure I could find that.
I love that one. Anyway, so check this out. There's a city in Spain, España. I guess it's near Madrid. It's called Brunete. And in Brunete, they had a problem. The people, they know scoopa da poopa, even though I use an Italian accent in Spain, right? They don't scoop the poop in this city, this nice old city in Spain. Nope.
I think New York also has that problem.
This place had it much worse, though New York has it, right? So what they did is they first tried to, they made a remote control poop car, right? That had a flag in it that said, hey, scoop poop, asshole, right?
It looks like they'd actually drive it into your foot if you didn't pick up the poop
Yeah, they
and
were,
tried to walk
and
away.
that didn't really work, right? So what they did is they were doing clever with their marketing to get people to scoop the poop from the dogs. And what they did is whenever anyone let their dog poop without scooping, they would go and scoop it, right? And they would talk to the person and say, hey, that is a nice dog. What is your doggy's name?
My dog's name is Mario. He's a
Italian dog living in Spain. I'm Italian living here. That's why I do not scoop the poop. I don't know.
He's a German short-haired pointer.
Right. So then, but just based on the name of the dog, they knew what town the person lived in, right? And the breed of the dog, they could look up in the dog license database and figure out who the fuck it was that didn't scoop the poop. So they took the poop and they put it in a box and they would hand deliver it to that person's house.
As lost property.
As lost and found. And they made them sign a thing. And inside the lost and found with the poop was a notice like, hey, if you do this again, big fine, hundreds of dollars.
Now, that is the kind of thing.
Poop scooping was decreased by, 70%, they say.
That's the kind of thing.
Increased.
That just because of the way America is, we can never do stuff like that. But that's the kind of stuff you need to do.
Yep. So, funny video with the poop.
So in the meta moment, the book club book is Ian M. Banks's Player of Games, which we will do on Thursday.
Yeah,
both
because
read it.
finally read it at the jury duty.
Super good book. Sadly, Ian M. Banks just recently actually did pass away.
I feel guilty because I chose the book right before we knew he was sick. Then he got sick right after I chose it. And then right before we do the episode, he dies. It's like, what the fuck?
More than one
I feel
author,
like I shouldn't have chosen it. He'd probably still be just fine.
More than one author of a Geeknights Book Club book was dead by the time we reviewed the book.
But the timing... My psychic powers.
The reason I'm so sad about it is partly that the
I
book
can't control
was
them.
awesome, and now I already know that all the books he wrote are already out, and there will never be any more.
There's one more.
And I wish I'd paid attention to him.
He finished. It's just not published
a
yet.
long time ago.
Well,
well,
the books are still there. The money will go to his family.
So we have uploaded one of our 5 lectures from Anime Boston 2013, Judge
Ooh.
Anime by Their Cover.
Nice.
Which has a ton of likes and 1 dislike, I assume, from some dude who likes tit anime and is mad at our evaluation of tits in tit anime. I can't imagine any other reason.
It could be just one of our haters, our 2 haters.
It could be. It's what's weird is the kinds of comments, because we don't really upload anime lectures or shows just for logistical reasons. Like, we have a lot more sort of facilities and convention support from gaming cons like PAX. So we have a lot more video.
It only
even
has
though,
like less than 200 views here.
Yeah, because I just uploaded. I'm not saying a lot of views. What I'm saying is
I could listen to you guys talk forever. Okay.
if you look at the comments of this anime video, it's basically people sucking our collective dicks.
Yeah.
But if you go to like
That was
our
highly
PAX
entertaining.
lecture,
You guys make the best panels ever.
if you go to our PAX
super
stuff,
entertaining panel.
it's always people who are like, well, really, Dungeons and Dragons isn't that bad. I don't know why you're being such a bad. It's a very different caliber of discussion.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just do more anime panels.
I don't know.
I think anime people are just easier to please.
I don't know.
And
Anyway.
yeah, PAX Oz is coming up. Kineticon is coming up.
Oh, this Saturday, which is Saturday, June 15th,
No, a thing.
is the New York City Netrunner Regional Tournament at the Complete Strategist. If you want to participate, I don't know if there's open slots left. There probably are. You have to call the Complete Strategist and registrate. Right? You have to also know how to play Netrunner and have cards. Right? This is a tournament. This isn't beginner's Netrunner.
My deck is 45 agendas.
Is that legal? No, there aren't enough agendas to do that.
I wonder, are there not enough with all the expansions?
Because you can only use neutral. You can't bring them from
Yes,
other...
you got to have 3 of every neutral, and then you've got to have all of your factions' agendas.
Yeah, it's not enough.
All the rest of the cards are the weakest possible ice.
How you going to res them?
That's the point of the deck.
Yeah, anyway. Actually, lots of weak ice works pretty well. But anyway, it's going to be pretty awesome. It's going to be 6 rounds. Usually we do 3 or 4 rounds. 6 rounds, people. This is going to
That can't lose.
This is effectively, I mean, I don't want to like toot New York's horn any more than I already toot it. But from everything we can surmise, like... You know the story of the Go Master who's like the king of Go, but he plays in the village. And
and then he goes to the capital.
He goes to the capital and he gets his ass handed to him.
Because they have far surpassed him.
Right. New York is the capital of Netrunner. Like, I'm really good at games. I'm not the best here at Netrunner. I'm like straight down the middle of the road. The people here are super dangerous. I think that whichever people from New York go to the world, championships, which I'm not going to because they're in like bumblefuck middle of the country at a bad time, and I wouldn't go there even if it was a good time, are probably going to win or come close to it because they're super dangerous. So this regional is sort of like, world championships, guess one level under that.
Well, how do you think you're going to do?
I predict I will get 10 prestige points because that's what I always get, but that's in 4 rounds. I think with 6 rounds, right, I get an average of 10 prestige points per 4 rounds. In 6 rounds, I can get at least 14 or 16 prestige points. It's hard to get an odd number, 15. So 14 or 16 points. To win this tournament, you're going to need to get a lot of sixes. So the maximum score you can get is 36 prestige points. I'm thinking the top people are going to have between like 32 and 36 points, right? If you don't at least get to 30, you're not winning this thing. But the top 8 people get some sort of goodie prize of swag.
That's how all those things seem to work, because a lot of people seem to only go to card-based events at game stores, or even events in general at game stores and comic shops, if there's swag of some kind.
There are people I know who are in it for the swag.
I can't imagine being like that.
Because basically, Fantasy Flight sells these game night kits to stores. You can't buy one unless you are a store. But for example, one guy works at a store in Westchester. He just bought one because he worked it, right?
Yep.
He bought the whole kit for himself. And then the store uses those things in that kit as game night prizes or tournament prizes or whatever they want to do. And it includes a regionals trophy that Fantasy Flight makes them and everything. So, you know, they don't sell those on the shelf. They give them away at an event, and that's the only way to get them. So people go to events just to win these things. I know people who went to like New Jersey and Long Island to try to win tournaments to get more swag. Because there'll be less competition.
Granted, there's a PAX medal hanging in your apartment.
I didn't go in that tournament to get that medal, did I?
You went into that tournament specifically to get that medal because someone reminded you that it turns out if you play in the early Sunday morning tournaments, there aren't many people, and you thought you could just snag a free medal.
Meanwhile, I ran the early Sunday morning tournaments at PAX East. There was a ton of people.
I think PAX East gets more of the early morning people. I don't know why.
The Suro tournament at PAX East, it's so many people. Anyway,
Suro's actually really popular.
The thing is, in Netrunner, I'd actually want to win that trophy. It's basically just a glass thing with like a laser etching on it. This is like, you know, Netrunner championship, whatever, right? You know, regionals champion. I would want that. I wouldn't want any of the other stuff like playmats, cards, you know, credit tokens. I don't want any of that bullshit, right? Or like there's like a Netrunner box you can put your cards in. I want none of that. All I want is the trophy, because then I can gloat for like 5 minutes before people think I'm a jerk.
You gotta like put that on a chain and wear it around your neck at PAX.
Listen, it's possible that every game I sit down could be like Maker's Eye, 7 points, I win, and just every time.
It is possible.
It could happen.
It could happen.
It could also,
fact,
some nub could show up, and all they know is how to do that. It could happen. Some nub never played before. It could happen.
So, Xbox, PlayStation, Wii U, what are we talking about?
There's so many E3 newses. Let's try to cover the
first
biggest
things first,
ones.
we are not going to bother with the blow-by-blow, play-by-play fact sheets. If you want to know the individual announcements, there are a lot of people who actually cover that way better than we would ever even bother doing.
Yeah. Go read what we read on the internets, and you can know all the things. We're going to commentate on the things. So let's commentate on the used game thing, because that's the biggest.
So I am conflicted on the used game thing in a lot of ways.
All right.
On one hand, I feel that first sale rights are a crucial aspect of the modern economy and consumer world.
I agree.
I feel like that is a strong right that needs to be not just upheld, but extended by the courts.
Yes, if I buy a thing, it is now my thing to then do with as I please. Imagine people didn't have first sale rights for like a car. So you bought a Ford, you had to
sell it back to the company shop.
Yeah, it's like all you could do with it when you were done with it is, you know, whatever Ford let you do with it. That's bullshit. I'm not renting. If I'm renting it, I understand, but I'm not renting or leasing. I am buying.
Now, at the same time, first sale rights have been actually very recently upheld by even recent Supreme Court decisions.
That guy reselling his AutoCADs, remember? I think he
also,
won that
people
court case.
reselling textbooks that they bought overseas, then moved to the United States
Also another win for us.
But at the same time, it has not been applied directly to all manner of digital things yet, for a number of reasons. And it was difficult to apply to digital things because someone who has, say, let's go back to ancient technology, a CD, some music on it. If they rip it and then sell it, that basically also constitutes duplication and dilutes the market, and it has secondary effects. You could call it piracy. And regardless of how you feel about that, it does have an effect on that industry. With games, a lot of people tried to call me a hypocrite because I'm so for this first sale rights, and I'm so against DRM, but yet I keep buying games on Steam. My answer to you is that I buy games on Steam for $1.
That's right. See, here's the thing. When you pay $50 for a fucking game on a disc, right? You own that shit. You paid $50 goddamn dollars. I know there's contracts and legal agreements and EULAs. Forget all that bullshit for right now, right? If you pay $50 for a fucking video game, you own that goddamn game. It's yours to do with as you please, right? If I pay $1, I mean, technically Steam says, I own it, kind of, right? But it's like, you could call that a rental or a lease.
I can't 100% trust Steam. I like Steam, but I don't 100% trust Steam.
Right? It's like for $1 or for like a hand for almost no money, yeah, okay, I'm willing to accept that this is, just like if I go to Blockbuster and I pay $5 and they let me take home an NES cartridge like I did back in the day, I didn't feel like I owned it. Even though I gave a person money and took a physical good from them, I didn't feel like I owned it because I paid so little.
Now, I understand why a lot of people are really okay with this, because they're looking at it from the perspective of a game gets sold for $50, someone sells it back to GameStop for like $5, and then GameStop sells it again for $40. So basically,
GameStop is ripping people off.
GameStop's getting a ton of money from this churn, but none of that money goes to the original producers of the games.
Well,
but the same thing happened in the music industry before piracy was even feasible.
Cars. If I sell my car, Ford doesn't get shit.
But cars wear out.
That's true.
Video games don't, but video games get old.
That's true.
So it's a complicated situation, but what I would say is that every industry where this has come up has tried to quash it. The media companies did not want Blockbuster Video and its ilk to exist at all.
Yep.
They didn't want DVDs to even be able to be in libraries.
Used bookstores, people. Just deal with it, right?
The
thing
music
is,
industry
used bookstores
went
are not
after
ripping
used music stores at many junctures in the early days of
But
music.
used bookstores aren't ripping you off the way GameStop is ripping you off. Just because GameStop...
but is GameStop really ripping you off? They're just charging what the market will bear, and the market will easily bear that price.
Right, but the thing is what the market will bear is too damn high. They pay you too little for the game when they buy it from you, and they charge too much when they resell it.
But they're not charging too much because people gladly pay it.
You could just see, the thing is, more people need to just sell their games directly to each other through Amazon to get the full price. If GameStop is, let's say I have a copy of
I see where you're going with this. You're right, but here's why that doesn't happen. The only people who sell games back to GameStop are like 14 years old.
Exactly.
And can't use the internet and Amazon to do this effectively.
They could if their parents are fucking cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could have, but well, most kids can't. I'm not going to pretend that there's some magic universe where parents are going to let their kids do that. Not everyone had a credit card at 16.
You don't need a credit card to sell things on Amazon. You just need a box and some tape and a printer.
I'm pretty sure
and
you have to be
sell.
18 or an account or something.
Yeah, but you log into your parents' account, you say I'm selling this, you get whatever. It's not hard.
But
it's definitely something a teen could do if they were smart enough, enterprising, and their parents were cooperative.
But what's interesting is that the majority of gamers don't even know this is an issue or care.
No.
Most of these people
they're the
don't
same
even
as the
realize,
anime fans who don't even know an anime con is a thing that exists.
They don't even realize that the Xbox and PlayStation 4 were actually 100% announced. Like, they don't realize
they
that.
only get
that
their
news
game.
has not hit
They'll
them
only
yet.
get their game news from like the mainstream media, or maybe they read a game magazine or go to a game store.
I get the impression they get it from hearsay and rumors from their slightly more connected friends.
Yes, only internet people. And it seems like there's a lot of internet people. No, internet people are still the minority.
It's just you're on the internet right now hanging out with internet people.
Yes, you are internet people. Most of the world doesn't get us. They're not connected to us. I know. I meet a lot of people on the street. They have no idea what the fuck's going on in the world the way we do.
Here's what really bothers me. The whole argument for consoles, because consoles have a place and had a place, was that it's the thing that just works. You bring it to grandma's house, you turn it on, you put something in the thing, and the game just works.
No, here's the reason that video game consoles, right, were super big back in the day.
Well, back in the day, there was no alternative.
Well, right. Well, there was, right? It's like, okay, you get NES, or you can get a computer. But what's a computer? It's an Apple II for thousands of dollars. For just $100, you can get an NES.
NES was more than $100.
NES is for $100 after like a year or two.
Yeah, after a year or two.
And that was with a gun and with the cartridge. Anyway, they were cheap, way cheaper than like an actual computer. And also, because they were only doing games, not doing anything else, like at the time the NES was out, it could play games way better than the best computer that you could buy in
And
your
Scott,
house.
the NES launch price was $200.
Okay, still that's way less.
$250 with the
All right,
bullshit.
how much? And that what year was that?
84.
84, 85. And how much did an Apple II cost in 84, 85?
I'm not saying your core point is wrong. I'm just
And
saying,
what was better,
don't lie.
Mario Brothers
Say
or
$100.
Oregon Trail?
Oregon Trail is actually kind of a shit game.
I didn't say it's a good game. I'm talking like graphically, audio-wise, everything-wise.
I think
right?
I implied all that.
Yeah, NES had superior software to far more expensive machines at the same time. Now, and the thing is, right, those computers, they didn't do all the things that a modern computer does. If you got an Apple II, what were you going to do with it? Play games and make games, right? That was what you were going to do with it. You couldn't really type up a paper on it.
No, you might break it.
Maybe, yeah.
That was a lot of kids bought it to break.
Sure. You know, even later when there were like black and white, like Mac Plus and stuff, it's like, yeah, okay, Carmen Sandiego on there, not as good
But I'm
as
saying
NES.
all these traditional arguments about the places of consoles and in the world, everything, aren't as relevant to the modern era. And in the modern era, the primary use of a console is that you don't need to know shit about computers.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to buy a gaming computer, which is more expensive than a console. I mean, if I buy the new NVIDIA 770 video card, that costs about as much as an Xbox One is going to cost just for the video card.
Yeah, but the thing is, you already have a PC because you need one to live these days. It wasn't like in the 80s or the 90s where you didn't need a PC to live, right? Now everyone's got one, but
Well, no, everyone who's in the middle class and up has one.
well, yeah, but you could, for example, now get some Macs, which don't really play games, or just live off iPads for your PCing if you're not really computery and you don't need to, you know, get Adobe tools or programming or anything serious, right? And then get a video console for your video games. You could do that and not have a PC at all. But if you're going to have a PC and you're going to spend more than like a couple $100 on it, right? Buy a fucking gaming PC, kill two birds with one stone.
But what I'm saying is that the consoles, the way they're going, especially with this resale thing, they're killing a lot of the big part of what does make consoles great compared to PCs for a lot of people. I'm going to enumerate right now all of the reasons I could see myself using a console instead of a PC. One, it does just work.
I never really have a problem with the PC not just working.
Yeah, well, it's because we're Magic, Uber Race, whatever.
I open up Steam, I double click on a game, it runs.
So we're normal people. It does just work. Give it to grandma. As long as you help her plug in the HDMI cable, it will just work.
Yep.
Two, the games are physical things that you just keep track of and trade around with your friends and sell and whatever, which now they're killing that.
Yep.
Three, doesn't need to be connected to the network, so you bring it to grandma's house when your parents foist you on her
Or the
while
beach
they go on
house.
vacation.
The beach house.
Yeah, bring it to the beach. Four, you bring it to the convention and you play it in the room. A lot of people will play video games in their hotel rooms during parties.
Video game hotel room is big.
Yeah, they're killing that.
Yep.
With the 24-hour check-in, I mean, I have to pay for internet to use my console in the hotel room at Otakon.
Oof.
That's rough.
It's real rough.
Even further beyond that. So now the video game room itself at a con, they don't wire the console gaming rooms up with internet.
Nope.
That'd be a giant pain in the ass and really expensive.
Well, conventions are a concern to a very small number of people. It's just
but the
something
people
we're
who
very
run
familiar
conventions, it's a big deal.
with. It is a big deal for a small number of people.
Yes, but there will be ramifications of that. A lot of small gaming cons will not be able to have Xbox Ones with working games on them at the convention.
That is true.
That's not going to bode well for the Xbox One.
I don't think conventions are going to be a big seller for Xboxes, nor were they ever.
No, but what it means is that part of the culture around the console that allows, for example, the fighting game community in one particular game to keep itself going long, multiple years into that console's lifespan, is because they play in tournaments at conventions.
That's true. If you go to a local fighting game tournament, the kind that doesn't have all arcade machines or stuff like that, they're going to be using PS4s for the foreseeable future for those tournaments and not Xbox Ones simply because it'll be a pain in the ass to set up the Xbox Ones for those sorts of things.
Yeah, but believe me, it is not easy to get internet set up at these convention centers, let alone in all your little console gaming rooms if you've got more than one.
Yep. And because of that, I wouldn't be surprised, if already a lot of, the fighting game community is all across different systems. Wherever their games are, that's where they go.
Yep.
I could see all sorts of competitive game communities, people who are going to want to use the same system as they're going to be competing on in their local tournament are going to be not using Xboxes because the local tournaments won't be using Xboxes because they can't. And that is a little bit larger than the convention community, but still a small percentage.
But also the library. A lot of the ways the libraries of these small conventions work is people donate their old discs. That's not going to work anymore.
Also, here's the more significant. The local library, the real libraries often check out games to people, right? I can go to the local library and get some Xbox games if I want. But not Xbox One games.
Yep.
Nope. Now,
meanwhile,
imagine if there were books published by a certain publisher and they didn't have them at the library. You could only get them on Amazon. You couldn't get them at Barnes & Noble, and you couldn't lend them to people, and they were just Kindle books only.
Meanwhile, Sony won a big press coup by announcing that they're not going to have that kind of DRM.
That was definitely a slide they added in.
And the internet was ecstatic about that, but that's not actually what they said. They said...
The thing is, right, is if you watch the video of their presentation, right, that is what they said.
Yep.
Very clearly and loudly while smiling.
Yep, because what they said is technically true. But there's a follow-up interview here with Tretton, and he says, and I quote, "We create the platform. We've certainly stated that our first-party games, we're not going to be doing that in regards to restricting used game sales. But we welcome publishers and their business models to our platforms. There's going to be free-to-play. There's going to be every potential business model on there, and again, that's up to their relationship with the consumer and what they think is going to put them in the best stead. So we're not going to dictate that. We're going to give them a platform to publish on." I'm going to translate that. All the third-party people can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yep.
And
which is good and bad, right?
Also,
if you're a developer, you want to be able to do whatever the fuck you want. And
also,
it's sort of
average gamer out there, gamer dude, name first-party Sony games.
Little Big Planet.
Yeah. Name another one, gamer out there.
Not Metal Gears anymore. That's Konami, right?
Also, they said the same thing about DRM.
So PlayStation All-Stars, which is the Smash Brothers of PlayStation.
On DRM. The DRM decision is going to have to be in the hands of the third parties. That's not something we're going to dictate, mandate, or control, or implement.
Well, that is sort of nice in one way. And I was saying developers can now do what they want on the PlayStation. They're less restricted, sort of. It's not PC unrestricted, right? Where you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yep.
But it seems like there's going to be less limitations for developers, where I guess Nintendo's the polar opposite, right? Where you have to do what the fuck Nintendo says, if you want to put a game out on their system. Whereas Sony's going to be like, they're even letting indies self-publish on PlayStation 4. They're like, go for it. Bring the games to the PlayStation.
But I guess the moral is that everyone who's saying, "Oh, I'll be able to sell my used games and there'll be no DRM in the PlayStation 4," that's not probably actually true.
Well, I wonder how, if you wanted to, let's say evil EA, wanted to make a no used sale game for the PS4. How would they do it without if there's nothing in the PlayStation 4 platform to support that? Technologically.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
They would have to...
But they went out of... but this interview, he went out of his way to say basically they can do it if they want to.
I think the only thing they could really do is when you open up the game from the disc, you have to log into your EA account or something, and then... the EA...
They could disable that disc. It won't work again.
I don't think they could disable the disc because all the discs would be identical, right? They would have to just basically... You would have to pay and have an account, and your account would have to have that game in it.
I've read rumblings that,
work.
on Xbox, the discs won't actually be identical. There's a way to identify disc A.
Whoa, crazy.
I don't know if that's legit or not, but I read that from a semi-legitimate source.
Whatever. All right, so the used thing has been beaten to death. Let's move on to the other things.
Yeah, backward compatibility...
No one's doing any of it.
Yeah, no one ever does. Though it's funny because people have such short memories. A lot of people on the internet were like, "Well, we shouldn't really expect backward compatibility," but Nintendo actually has been doing a good job with that.
Yeah, remember the original DS, the DS Fat could play GBA, right, and DS games. The 3DS can still play DS games. The Game Boy SP could play Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, and original gray cartridge Game Boy games, right? The GameCube had a thing that you could put under it to play GBA games on it. The Super Nintendo had the Super Game Boy. You could play Game Boy games on that.
And there's older precedent. The Atari 7800 could play any Atari 2600 game.
Yep.
It actually
Only the
included-
5800 wasn't compatible.
It's not the 5800.
5200.
Yeah.
The 5 one. That was the one that couldn't
The
play
one that
any other
nobody
game.
owned.
I had a friend who owned it.
I know. Everyone had a friend who owned it, just like everyone knew some kid who had a Neo Geo.
I had a 2600, he had a 5200.
I always wanted a 5200 because in that little book of all the different games, the 5200 had all the cool, weird games with keyboards and shit.
It did. But you could just get like an Atari 800 XL if you want to do that shit.
Yeah, but that wasn't in my stars. My first computer was a 486 SX2.
Yep. Anyway. But yeah, backwards compatibility is a thing that's existed, right? And I've noticed the pattern is pretty much, here's the thing. You know, Nintendo to Super Nintendo, nobody really complained about not having backwards compatibility. Why? Number one, the cartridges are completely different. It was sort of a common sense thing. Like, of course, Super Nintendo can't play NES games. They don't fit.
And I mean, the Genesis and the Master System and all the other systems didn't do it well either.
Right. And it's also, on top of that, that was the second system ever, effectively, for a lot of people, right? For most people, the Atari 2600 didn't even exist. It was NES was the first video game, maybe second. We'll bring Atari into it, right?
Yep.
And SNES was the second. So people didn't see this future of boxes piling up under the TV.
Now, also, back then, what other devices did you have hooked up to a TV? You had your VC fucking R.
And a cable box, maybe.
If you had
Maybe,
cable.
If you had cable.
Yeah.
Right?
Or you might have had that little box that lets you rotate the antenna on your roof.
Yeah. There was no plague of boxes under the TV.
I had one
right?
of those boxes. I could physically rotate the antenna on my roof.
Right. But basically, the precedent up to this point was if the cartridges are the same as the 7800 and 2600 were, they all work. And
Whoa, I was wrong. The Sega Genesis had full backward compatibility.
with what?
The Master System.
I did not know you could put Master System games in a Genesis. Didn't you need some sort of adapter thing to do that?
I'm reading right now. Sega released the power. All right, there's a big article, so keep going. I was a smart kid, so I had a Nintendo, so I got to read this article now.
I didn't know you could play Master System games in a Genesis.
Anyway, continue your thought. I'm going to figure out what the deal is
Right?
here.
So, and notice, right? So what happened is that was the last system that had the same exact cartridge. They kept having different cartridges until the CD was invented, right? And as soon as the CD was invented, backwards compatibility made an immediate comeback. The PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2 both had CDs or DVDs, right? And guess what? PS2, backwards compatible. As soon as the media format stopped changing, backwards compatibility immediately reappeared. The expectation is if it has the same physical media, it should fucking run the games from the previous system. And also around that time,
You needed a weird ass adapter that you put on the cartridge.
Yeah. When the PS2 came out, that is when the plague of too many boxes under the TV was just getting started, right? And the PS2 actually saved you because that was when the PS2 came out, most people didn't have DVD players.
Yeah, you realize the only reason we
DVD
had a
was
DVD
brand
player
new.
when we lived in an apartment at RIT is because I found for a
We took
90
Scott Johnson's DVD player.
Well, we took his for a while, but then I got for $90, I bought a standalone
Piece of shit.
super bootleg piece of shit. We had to take the case off because it would overheat.
Yep.
And we had flashed its BIOS to make it region free.
Yep.
Even though we never once watched a region disc on it.
Well, some of those ones from Video Barn may or may not
Might have been.
Yeah, we don't know.
It's hard to say. We had no way to know.
Anyway,
But there's another factor here that I think is actually a big deal when it comes to the backward compatibility.
well, I want to say the Dreamcast was not backwards compatible with the Saturn.
Nah.
So that doesn't entirely hold, right?
So in the old days, it was typical in a lot of middle-class households to have many TVs around the house.
well, even today, people who have houses and families have TVs around the house.
I have noticed, having visited
Living
houses,
room, kitchen,
No,
every bedroom has a
not-
TV.
No, so I've noticed just from visiting people's houses, especially years ago going to coworkers' houses for dinners and whatever, I think there are fewer televisions than there used to be. A lot of people now have the big flat screen TV in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
They have the previous older TV in one other room. And the bedroom TV is slowly being replaced by iPads.
That could be true. But even my parents' house, where there's only 2 people living, right? There's still a TV in like every fucking bedroom and in the kitchen. And,
Yeah, but I feel like I get
I
the
don't know if the
impression
kitchen TV's still there.
younger parents do not have as many TVs as older parents.
That could be very well the case. It's also interesting to see maybe the Wii U is sort of realizing that, and that's why they're like, hey, if someone's using the TV, you play on the Wii U. But that's more of a Japanese thing, right? You think a Japanese house definitely only has like 1 or 2 TVs.
Now, what I would
right?
also see is that a lot of people in the old days, like in the 80s, 90s, not only would they have a TV in every room, but they'd have one game console plugged into each TV. The newest console was on the newest TV in the living room, and then like the Atari was in the basement hooked up to the old TV.
Yeah.
And the Nintendo was in like the little brother's room, and the Super Nintendo was in the older brother's
Or
room.
a lot of people's houses I went to who had more money than we did, right? It's like, yeah, the main home theater TV, the big one, that
Had
just
no
had
console.
No consoles, just VCRs and stuff.
And then the kids had like the busted
the kids
19s.
had the second best TV was in the basement with all the kids shit, and it had all the consoles on it with switches. Or maybe they had the best console was there, and some other console was like in the kid's bedroom.
Yep,
With another TV.
For a long time, my brother and I kept the NES, he had the SNES, and if we wanted to play one, we just had to go into the other kid's room. And
But I do see, I think a lot of also bedroom TVs, like for teens, are replaced with bedroom computer or
exactly,
laptops.
or just tablet. They don't
Yeah.
even have a computer.
But the point is, you have a screen. It's just not a television screen that's in your room.
So all this combined
necessarily.
means that backward compatibility would be much more useful to the average person,
Yes.
especially because they want to resell the old console and not keep all their consoles forever.
And have
like
a pile
people
of
would-
boxes under the TV.
Like people would do in the old days when they only owned 2 or 3 anyway.
But they have a game that they bought. They want to be able to play that game forever, right? And people like us know that in like 5 to 10 years, we'll just be able to emulate that game on our PCs. But most people still don't even know how to emulate fucking NES games, and they buy virtual console games because they don't know better.
Dude, when I was in middle school, there was a kid whose family was rich. He had a laptop, like a 486 laptop.
Yep.
And he had an NES emulator on it.
There you go. There you go. But yeah, people who don't know how to do that, right? They have a game, they want to be able to play that game. If they don't have backwards compatibility, they effectively lose that game when they buy a new console unless they have a pile of boxes under their TV. Which they
Now,
don't
also,
want.
because kids, the longer memory of the internet and the fact that people use apps on their computers, they expect things to stick around forever once they pay for them. I mean, Steam does that.
Yep.
Steam is just up. Those are all my games forever. It doesn't matter what changes on my computer.
I can go and find the first game I ever got on Steam, which was Half-Life 1, and play it today, and it works.
But it's all moot. I'm going to argue that having or not having backward compatibility in the modern era has 0 effect on sales.
I agree.
0. Not even 0.1%. 0.
I agree.
Nobody will not buy a console because it's not backward compatible with the previous version.
They might have other reasons for not buying, and that might be one of them, but that's not going to be the straw that breaks any camel's backs.
So there's this article here about Nintendo's stuff. It's a Totillo, and the headline says everything. Nintendo new games are fun, but they're playing it ridiculously safe.
That is the
It's like
truest true.
Bog standard Nintendo. So I was not impressed with A Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons that I was going to get a 3DS, and I did get a 3DS because I said sequel
I
to
also
Link
have
to
a
the
3DS now.
Sequel to Link to the Past, and I'm like, well, fuck yeah, I gotta have that. And apparently I look at it, and it's like, hey, this looks like not really a sequel, but mostly just a slightly remixed Link to the Past. You sort of fooled me there, asshole. I was expecting an all-new game in the same world with the same mechanics, and this is looking like mostly the same game with a few things changed here and there. I can play that game anytime I want. I don't need to buy a new copy of it.
I have a much more direct complaint, and I swear this isn't just nostalgia. I think this kind of 3D graphic looks like butt.
I agree.
I think it looks terrible.
I agree the graphic looks like butt, but I don't buy or not buy games based on graphics.
But it also just looks kind of fiddly, like you don't have as much control because it's not obvious where things overlap like it was in the old 16-bit era for a game like this.
I agree with that
Hitboxes
as well.
just don't look that precise.
I agree. It looks more like, what was that one for the DS?
Oh, I feel very vindicated. The top several comments are about how ugly the game is.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying it's not ugly. It is, but that's not what's going to make me buy or not buy the game. If it was actually a true sequel to Link to the Past and it played like a Zelda game, that's all I need. You can make it look like all the butt you want, right? Remember when Wind Waker came out, everyone complained, and now
only stupid people
and
complained.
now everyone's like Zomji Wind Waker.
Thing is, the people who complained about that style, I hated them because they were complaining about the wrong thing for the wrong reason.
Okay.
The
point is, look at Nintendo's lineup, right? And they, again, as we all have been complaining on Geeknights since Geeknights has existed since 2005, they are not taking advantage of their hardware. Their software is not fulfilling the potential that they could be making. Of course, there's no Pokemon MMO, right?
But wait, they're making Wii Party.
Wah, wah. Next. What else they got?
80 brand new party games.
I mean, there are some games in there that I kind of want to play. For example, they got the Smash Brothers coming for the Wii U and the 3DS. Good move. But that means now I don't have to buy a Wii U. I can just play it on 3DS.
Now, I have a big worry about it being on the 3DS.
Okay.
Kind of an aside. My worry...
It's going to be the hit in every PAX?
My worry is that it's actually not going to be as good and complex as the previous Smash Brothers. And they're going to slightly dumb it down.
Well, here's the thing, right? The pro Smash Brothers people already complain that
yeah.
Was it Melee or which one was second, Melee or Brawl?
Brawl is the newest one.
So so they basically say Melee was the real deal, and Brawl basically already dumbed it down too much for them.
Which I can see their point.
Right. So,
and having played the new Mario Tennis.
So even on the console, you're already...
Yeah, the thing is, Brawl was okay for me because I'm not hardcore about it. I also like Melee, and I like playing both of them.
I like playing the original one.
I never really liked the original.
It's the same fucking game.
Nah, I didn't like it. I never liked it.
All of them are good.
Yeah. But having played the Mario Tennis, it just feels too slow and too sort of dumbed down and easy, and timing doesn't matter anymore.
Nintendo's been making all their games easier. That's what they've been doing ever since Mario Kart Super Circuit. Mario Kart is just downhill.
They're still not doing much interesting with this separate console, with its separate screen. They're doing this kind of basic, lame stuff like, oh, you can keep playing the game when you go take a poop.
Because you only have one TV.
But they're not doing the kind of crazy... I still think Crystal Chronicles did more with this stuff than almost any game they're releasing.
I was hanging with the Netrunner people, right? And we were talking about it.
Yeah.
And all of those people also, Crystal Chronicles 4 Swordsed.
Oh my God, we should just play Four Swords.
Yep.
Right now.
We were all together in our club of having GameCube GBA hookups.
And really? Deus Ex on the Wii U?
We already played that on PC a long time ago.
Now, I can see it working on the Wii U, but they showed like they zoom in on the person holding the handheld thing, and oh my God, he's got his inventory down there instead of on a separate screen. Oh my gosh.
Welcome to the GameCube era.
Maybe they'll do something cool where you do the hacking game there while your guy's just still on the screen, but...
Getting shot at?
Yeah, which happens in the real game.
Okay.
If you try to hack and someone comes around the corner, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You just start taking damage.
All right. Yeah, any other games on there? I think there's a new Yoshi's Island, which is kind of interesting. And Yoshi's Island is really good, but I actually never even beat the first Yoshi's Island for Super Nintendo, so I got to start working on that.
There's new Mario Kart.
Yeah, Mario Kart 8. See, I actually was wrong on this. I thought that, there was strong evidence to suggest that Nintendo considered the 3DS to be the primary platform and the Wii U to be secondary because, for example, right, on the 3DS, they had New Super Mario Brothers. New Super Mario Brothers 2. And on the Wii, they had New Super Mario Brothers U or Wii U, right? And it's usually,
Mario Kart DS.
Right. You'll call Mario Kart and then you have Mario Kart DS. And when you put the name of the system in the title of the game, you're sort of implying this isn't the mainline version. This is sort of the side version, right? So when you call New Mario Brothers, the 3DS one, you don't put 3DS in the title. You're implying that that's the main one. And the one on the Wii U that has Wii U in the title is sort of a second track, the second tier. But Mario Kart 7's on the 3DS and Mario Kart 8 is on the Wii U. So what the fuck does that tell you?
It tells me I won't be playing Mario Kart 8 anytime soon.
Well, yeah, but I think it means that Nintendo doesn't really consider either platforms
Maybe
to be
they're
primary
just-
or secondary.
Maybe we're Gandalf Girthing and they're just inconsistent in their naming nowadays.
Yeah, I don't think they have any logic behind their naming, really.
Yeah. But there's nothing particularly interesting or innovative from Nintendo. It's all kind of just hardcore ports. Like, look, we've got big boy games too, coupled with their basic smash hits.
Yep. The remakes I'm not interested in because I can play the originals, right? Most of the baby games I'm interested in. The third-party games are all crap. There's just a few Nintendo exclusives that I want, and pretty much all of them are on 3DS, and there isn't even one for Wii U that I can think of that I need to get a Wii U for. You know, it's like they got that Wind Waker HD. That's a remake. Don't need it. I have Wind Waker. I can play it anytime I want.
Yep.
So, I mean, they added some new stuff, but whatever. I don't give a shit.
So the Xbox price. I just want to say,
$500.
I just want to say,
You can get a badass gaming PC for $800 that can play pretty much everything on Steam. So
I just want to say to all you kids out there, because I said it was going to cost $500 a long time ago. And I was ridiculed by certain listeners. You told me that I'm old and out of touch and I don't know anything about the market. And you know what? You can all eat a big old dick.
bag of dicks.
You know,
EABOD.
You know, while EABOD, the original use was eat a bag of dicks, I like big old dick because it implies...
I like bag of dicks.
That is
'cause
mine.
Imagine a bag, like a bag of holding, with just dicks coming out of it all over the place.
But what about a guy just a big old dick? Eat
Yeah.
a big old dick. Like, eat a big old crow.
No, eat a bag of dicks is better.
Regardless, I was right. You guys are stupid.
And the PlayStation 4 is going to be $400. But I assume that extra $100 is the $100 you're not spending on all that TV tuner, you know, it's not a cable box like the Xbox is,
Well,
right?
adjusted for inflation, the Atari 5200 cost $680
That's true.
in 2006.
How about that $200 NES in modern dollars?
$250.
Wow.
The 3DO.
So all the inflation happened between the 7800 and the
Remember
NES?
the 3DO? $700.
Yep. All right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Oh, well. Neo Geo, almost $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing I say every time.
Oh, no. The 3DO adjusted $967.
Oh, okay. I'm going to say the same thing I say every time new consoles comes out, right? Pretty much the reason you buy a console is for the games. We're already assuming you're not a PC gamer. You're not going to play games on a PC. Maybe you just have iPads and Macs, right? So you're going to buy a console to play games on. Most of the games are on both consoles, right? But those are still games you want. So you need one of the two consoles to play those games.
And
you don't
even
have a PC.
if you are a PC gamer, you might want to play the console games online with your gaming people. If you're super gamer, I could see someone owning both, especially if like your friends playing Steam while you're on the Xbox.
Right, like if we still don't have cross-platform online play. So if your friends are playing a game online and they're all PS3 people, PS4 people, you need a PS4 to play online with them because they're not using Steam, right? Anyway, so you're gonna choose one of these things to play the games on. So what is the difference really between these two things? Well, I guess if you don't have an HTPC and you don't want one, the Xbox is probably going to give you all that stuff you don't have, and maybe not mean you don't have to have a cable box, which is kind of good.
But you've got to have internet in your living room and all the restrictions we've talked about.
Yep. If you're willing to deal with that, you're willing to deal with it, right? 2, maybe you don't want to put up with that annoying internet bullshit, right? And the PlayStation exclusive games are the ones you want. And so go with that. It doesn't really matter, right? It's whichever one has. If you want Halo, get an Xbox. If you want some JRPGs, get a PS4. And just whichever.
If you want Nintendo
and all the games that
games-
are not exclusive, get them for whichever one you picked.
If you want Nintendo games, get a Wii U.
Get a 3DS.
Well, get a 3DS
there's no
first.
games on a Wii U that you want.
Wii U second.
There's no one game for Wii U that I saw that I need.
Yeah,
That is not.
I don't know if there'll ever be a time I need a Wii U, but I did buy the 3DS.
Name one Wii U game that you gotta have.
Yeah, someday there might be one.
Maybe. But
Might be.
One is not enough.
So I have a posit, an idea as to why Microsoft is making the Xbox check in every 24 hours and have online
Well,
internet.
there's a lot of reasons we can guess.
Yeah,
Tons
but
of
I
them.
don't think the internet part of it has anything to do with DRM or piracy.
I think it doesn't either, because if they already basically have as much DRM as they can have on a console. If someone's going to hack the console, they'll just make it play offline, so that doesn't protect them from mod chips or anything of the sort.
It is to be able to drive advertising.
Of course, but they already do drive advertising, but this will make it better.
It makes sure everyone with one is getting the advertising driven to them.
Absolutely. So
Two, it'll force you to at least get some Xbox Silver account for free or whatever, and then they'll keep pressuring you to get the more expensive one.
Mm-hmm.
It'll let them integrate all of their sort of achievement, social stuff to pressure you into buying the games your friends are playing.
They'll also track everything you do on there, including your TV watching habits and everything you do, any part of the console, and they'll make sure that that data gets sent to them by giving you a strong incentive of your games won't fucking work unless you send us our tracking data.
And I think they're going to really have a lot more free-to-play microtransaction-y games that need that, because otherwise you're not going to be able to pay the real money to get the microtransaction-y bullshit.
Yup, if you don't have internet connection, basically free-to-play is not possible on that platform, right? Therefore, they want to make sure that a free-to-play game is possible for everyone. Otherwise, what might happen if someone goes to the store and buys a game that's a free-to-play game or picks up a free copy of it, right? And brings it home to play, and they didn't have internet on their Xbox. It's like, you know, there hasn't been a game on a disc that has said internet required to play. I don't think there's been one.
Well, if we go all the way back again to the PC
what was
Gaming
that
Master
MMO
Race,
for the GameCube?
when you would buy not Phantasy Star, that was older.
No, was it Phantasy Star Online?
I don't know if it was on GameCube.
I think there was a GameCube MMO that
Was it Phantasy Star Online 2?
It might have been Phantasy Star Online 2.
You ever played a Phantasy Star game?
No.
Nope. Windows, PlayStation, Vita, iOS,
Okay,
Android.
what was the GameCube MMO? Phantasy Star Online?
Oh yeah, regular PSO was on the GameCube.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Okay, there we go.
So I guess you needed internet for that to work. I remember Scott Johnson.
Well, there
would
was
play
that.
it.
There was that adapter.
I don't know if it had single player.
There was that adapter
The
to plug the
modem
Dreamcast into your broadband back in the day.
So the GameCube had the modem.
Yeah, which I guess was
So
only
did the
ever
PlayStation
used.
2 had a modem.
I guess those things are only ever used for Phantasy Star Online. But I worry that this is going to go one step further. I feel like whenever people have these kinds of DRM systems nowadays, they're doing it also to prevent you from fucking around and cheating in your local single-player games, so that they can then have the microtransactions and have the sort of progression of achievements between you and all your friends and make it still feel quote-unquote
But they're not
fair.
preventing anyone from cheating, because look how many people cheat at Xbox games anyway, right? At Halo
know.
and stuff that's online.
Pac-Man CEDX's leaderboard.
Yeah, seriously? Oh, speaking of which, new maps for Pac-Man CEDX.
Nah.
I really want to get rid of my Xbox 360.
Me too.
Right? But Pac-Man CEDX and a few other games that I have on there, not many, right? That I paid for, that I feel bad because I paid for them.
Yeah, I
and
got
now I'd lose
Pac-Man, I
them.
got Half Minute Hero.
Yeah, stuff like that, right? And it's like, damn it, I made the mistake of getting an Xbox, and if I get rid of it, I lose those games, basically. But Pac-Man CEDX is the only one I really care about, and it's on Windows 8 only. And it's like, damn it, I'm going to go buy Windows 8 just so I can get Pac-Man CEDX on my HD PC? Really? Really? Just so I can get rid of this Xbox out from under my TV? I think I'll just let it sit down there and collect dust and play Pac-Man when I want to.
Yeah.
I already paid for it.
But basically, I took the list of every game that's been announced from E3 and just in the last several weeks, and 90% of the ones I want to buy have already been announced that they'll be on PC.
Yep.
So
Or 3DS.
I'm probably just going to upgrade my video card because it'll cost less than an Xbox to upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Anything else really to say about all these events that have happened at the E3s?
Not really. It's interesting watching the internet go crazy about Sony's announcement and already start declaring Sony the winner. And while they won the PR coup, never forget that normal console gamers have no idea what happened.
No, they have no fucking clue. Let me tell you, these people the vast majority of the people who
These
buy
are the people who will tell
these
you
consoles and these games do not internet. They do not even know there is a PlayStation 4 announced. They do not know there is an Xbox One announced. They don't know anything about them.
They will tell you.
They don't know what
over lunch
DRM is.
Or around the water cooler, like, yeah, I heard there's a new Zelda game coming out for the Wii U. It's totally brand new, and it's in 3D. And they won't realize it's that remake of Link to the Past.
Yeah, they don't know. Well, that's for 3DS. But yeah, they have no idea anything that's going on.
Yes,
Right.
for 3DS was the point of my anecdote.
Oh, okay. Right? They are clueless. And those people are just going to buy based on brand, most likely, the same way they vote for president. And if they're Halo, Call of Duty people, they're going to buy Xbox Ones. And if they're the other kind, if they're Gran Turismo people, they're going to buy PlayStations. And that's how it's going to be.
Yep.
All that other stuff that nerds care about will not matter.
Yeah, especially the things about DRM and the things about used games.
Remember how when the PlayStation 3 came out, all the nerds were down on it? Well, it did okay.
Yeah. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.